can hear a little bit. Hey, you guys, and welcome to the 40th episode of the Insiders on Real Estate and Marketing. I am your host, Sandy Hibbard, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. Marc Miller.
Howdy, hi.
Hey, hey.
How you doing?
And we have our very special guest joining us today, Miss Ayla Reed, and she is a equestrian out in Aubrey and farm and ranch specialist. So we're going to be hearing more from Ayla here in just a few minutes. We're going to dig in and pick her brain and get all kinds of information and talk a lot about some marketing stuff too that's going to be really good. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful sprummer. We're trying to figure out a new word for spring because here in Texas, spring feels like summer. I mean, today it's hot and humid and we've had the rains and it's crazy, but I'm still enjoying it. It's better than the alternative being cold and nasty. So I hope everybody's having a great spring. Marc, how is the market looking? Speaking of spring, great springs. Are we having a great spring?
We're having a better spring.
Yeah.
I'll call it that. Actually, our order counts were up pretty substantially last month. Our revenue was up. Mm-hmm. So those were good signs. I got a little nervous when they started trying to put this credit equation into place, which would have penalized good credit, benefited bad credit. So the good credit would get charged, and then our subsidy of our charge would go to help the bad credit into a home, which was nothing more than scratch and dent.
Yeah.
And here we go back to,
so did that
subprime.
not level?
They suspended it
Okay.
because they got so much resistance from the market and the mortgage bankers.
I think I'd seen a realtor had done a post and the headline thing was, well, there goes all those years of building good credit. And
Right.
I didn't read deeper into it.
Just makes
that's
absolutely no sense whatsoever. But it does.
Because people are having
when
problems.
you start considering where it came from, it makes all the sense in the world.
Okay, we won't go there now, will we?
Exactly. So anyhow, I was really happy about that because I was really concerned that we felt like we were just starting to get a little feeling of normalcy again, and we were starting to hear some backup contracts, and the rates were sort of at least being more balanced and acceptable by the home buyers. So I'm glad that got diverted.
Yeah, no kidding.
And we'll see where that comes up.
Any news on the foreclosure front?
No, postings are staying about the same. I mean, they're not rapidly rising. I still believe we're going to see that. Projections of some of the major foreclosure firms are going to be probably third and fourth quarter because you've also now got fully positioned in what your taxes are going to be for the payment in October. And I think some people are going to have a very difficult time. And, if you're not protesting, you're just not awake right now. It's insanity. For that.
We're
I can't imagine.
protesting. Thank you for your referral.
Welcome. Uni, good. So anyhow, that's all good. We've got our target on 2 title companies in Houston that we're trying to. I just keep,
You gonna roll them in?
Yeah, I've run it 2. We didn't make those. We got 2 more on the target line, so we'll see if we get that opportunity done. We're mainly kind of like all alert on just transactional flow. We've got some odd kind of transactional flow, which everybody's experiencing, which has to do with fraud.
Oh, really?
And the seller fraud is out there in a pretty big way right now. It's primarily in lots. So, if you get lots, number one, if they ask you to list, you got to do a little bit more forensics to make sure they really own it, because they're engaging, like they might engage Ayla, and then she thinks she's got a good listing, and then here comes the buyer's agent with their client and consummate a deal and close the deal, and all to find out that the seller is not really the seller, and they've done a fraudulent transaction.
I don't understand how that can happen.
Because they forge very effectively the driver's license, and then they never come to the title company to close. First key red flag is they always want a notary close, because that's how they perpetrate the fraud, by not coming in.
And being a land deal, I can see where they could be easier to slide that into the home.
And they're identifying them because it's not the same address of the owner. So that's our newest thing that we're all kind of being more alert when you get a lot deal, and not a land deal, but a lot deal. on that side. So, and then just
Crazy.
wire fraud is just still,
Keeping Carrie busy, huh?
yes, pretty rampant there. So we're doing all that. So, but anyhow, that's just another day in the life of the title company.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I get that.
That's why we need you.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
So-
man, that's true.
Anyhow, all good. Ayla's here with us today. She's an avid horsewoman and reining horse breeder, and she came to us to Texas out of Colorado, Castle Rock. She's been in the business selling real estate since 2015, correct? And really has uniquely positioned herself in the marketplace with large-scale ranch facilities, land investments, and then premier equine properties as well. And I'm sure she's got a bunch of horses out there.
Too many.
Yeah.
No, never too many.
Yeah. Horses are alive
Your
and well.
kids, you called them earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, one
they are.
of the things I always watch reels on Facebook, and one of the things I love to watch is the guys that are kind of what I call the horse whisperers, because they get, but what they're doing is they're chiropractors side, and I love to watch them work on a horse. It's the most interesting thing in the world, and they know predictively exactly how to help them, and
Wow.
then how to watch when they're feeling the relief. They shake their heads a lot and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyhow, I love horses. My cousin.
Okay, I saw a reel last night that I thought was hilarious, and it was a guy talking about how he knows when his dog's happy because his dog wags his tail, but how do you know when a horse is happy?
They'll tell you. It's all in body language, how they look at you. And all my horses have huge personalities. One of my mares, she will tell you when she's unhappy. You will know she's firecracker.
So they do have personality.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, I would think
crazy
so.
personalities.
As
yes.
one would say, big personality.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I have
right.
one that knows she's beautiful and an absolute diva, and I have one who's like makes up for it and is the sweetheart, and then I have one who's like just a disaster.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're so fun. They're funny.
So anyhow, all that being said, that's where her focus. She sells houses as well. I mean, it's not just only that, but that certainly is her niche, as I would say.
Yeah.
So Ayla, I gave you a little update on my side. Give us an update, kind of the market as a whole.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in your space?
Absolutely. Well, similarly to what you have noticed, obviously, in the title side, because you're our support, you see the transactions that come to you. But when we are looking as agents on the side of working with sellers and working with buyers, of course, we are in a different market than we were in 2020 and 2021, and even into 2022. That market was indicative of a very, very, very strong seller's market. We are no longer in that market space. Real estate is cyclical, and for those of us who have been in the industry for a while, we're very aware of when that pendulum starts to swing, and that's what's happened here. So now we are far more into a buyer's market. We are far more into buyers having negotiation strategies. They are able to see more inventory. They have time to look at homes. It's not the same strong, crazy seller's market that it was, where a home would come on the market within 24 hours, have 30 offers, 100 over list, no appraisal. It's changed. And so our advice and how we counsel clients, how we speak to our buyers, how we speak to our sellers has obviously changed as well. When your landscape starts to alter, as a good agent, you have to be there to help either a seller or a buyer achieve their goal in real estate the best way that you can, and counsel them appropriately along the way. So that's the biggest change, is we are now in that buyer's world.
Now, getting in a little bit more specific, and let's go to farm and ranch as an example. So was that a seller's market as well at points in time, or how does that differ than if I just have a lot and block house down the street?
Absolutely, and that's a great point to make. So if you were, a specialist in regular residential real estate in the last few years, obviously that seller's market is stronger than it was in lots of large equine facilities or large properties. And the reason for that, I think there's two key pieces. First and foremost, it's a small niche market that's looking for that type of property. A buyer who is looking for 60 acres with a full training facility is going to be a lot different than, a family looking for a $400,000 or $500,000 home. So that changed how sellers approached in our market when it was that hot seller's market. We still saw a lot of buyer interest at that time, but it was definitely a smaller pool. Also price point. Price point changes the story always, and that's true even even in this market. So luxury market is going to be different than, a market in the more residential side even now. And we don't see as much volatility in that higher end price point as we do in some of the smaller price points, simply because a lot of those buyers are cash. They have a lot more financial ability to play the game at a higher level, so they don't see the big interest rate swings that some of our buyers who are looking in a different price point might. So I think in farm and ranch, we have stayed relatively level, but I have noticed we have, still a strong demand, but our inventory is definitely staying on market longer. So we're still seeing that swing, just not as strongly.
And are you seeing a lower inventory in farm and ranch as
Yes.
you see in everything else?
Yes,
Okay.
Especially for clients who are looking for very specific properties. If you're looking for a small barn and a nice home, you're going to be able to find that a lot easier than if you're looking for a very specific amount of stalls, a specific type of training facility, or maybe you need something that's set up for reproduction, or maybe you need something that's set up for one or two or multiple trainers. So it's definitely more difficult to find those than it is in the residential.
And if you have those kind of properties that are fairly, as I would say, more complex in their structure of that side, those people that are selling, what's their common motivation for selling? Because they've obviously invested in
Good question.
their horse, and whether that's production, as you said, or whatever it may be, and now all of a sudden they're decided to sell. What do you find to be their next journey?
Sure.
Is it to another ranch, or is it okay?
It's all over the board. My most experience with sellers is they're either looking to move into a more remote area, because where I live in Aubrey, I'm in a growth corridor. A lot of these farms and ranches that have been in families for years and years, we're starting to see change, right? We're starting to see more commercial opportunities with the tollway extension in Salina. These large properties are being filled in with retail, with mixed use, with new home developments. And so a lot of these people are wanting to sell their farm and ranch for a very high price and restart somewhere else that's more remote. I'm also seeing a lot of people that they have decided they maybe want to downsize. That could be an age thing, or it could just be indicative of the horse market in general. So, it's a lot of work to manage and handle a large scale ranch. So for a lot of my clients who are perhaps getting older, or they're not as involved as they used to be in their particular discipline, their interest is to sell into something smaller and that's more manageable. And it's giving opportunities for new buyers, for investors, for international clients, or for people who are on the younger side looking to expand their business as well.
Okay. So taking advantage of what might be the corridor for commercial coming alongside them, which obviously becomes congestion to them.
Right.
But they also can take the advantage of probably a higher price point
Yes.
because they want that land for commercial development. And then let's go find something where we can hear the birds chirp again and see the
Yes.
stars at night.
Yes.
Ideal.
Makes sense.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
So what are some of your formulas for a person who's selling right now? And maybe not formula, but maybe just some advice for people who may have their house for sale in this different market.
Sure.
What are you seeing?
So to me, my advice differs 100% based on transaction. So if it is a farm and ranch situation, obviously it would be different advice than if it was a residential. But for the sake of an example, I'll use what I think a lot of agents and the majority of sellers are going through, which is going to be of a more residential transaction.
Yeah.
A seller in this market has to understand that they are going to receive what I still believe is a fair market price for their home. However, a couple of things have changed. If they're expecting to have, multiple offers for 30, 40, 50,000 over list, it's not going to happen. If they are expecting to have a buyer waive appraisal, it's most likely not going to happen. If they're expecting that they won't have to do a single repair, it's not going to happen. In this market, we are looking at buyers who now have some negotiation power.
Okay.
And so when I speak to a seller, I tell them, listen, a strong and appropriate offer is absolutely achievable. But the difference here is you're not going to be able to ask for everything in the kitchen sink and get it.
Yeah.
There's going to be a situation where you probably are going to have to do some repairs, or you probably are going to have to offer a rate buy down perhaps, or a concession, or something else to create a winning formula to make that transaction work. And if you have a reasonable seller, and especially if you have an educated seller, that conversation is typically very easy. I think where a lot of agents get into trouble is sellers always want to sell at the very top and they want to buy at the very bottom, and it's hard to counsel someone who has it in their mind that it's still that same old market. So I think it's all about education, and it's all about, as an agent, being able to effectively communicate to your client that they are in a different space. A great sale in a short amount of time is still achievable, but it's just different than it was.
What would you say to a seller who has a realtor who's coming in and after 10 days says, we're going to lower the price, we're not getting any hits on this? When you feel like that you've got a fair price, that it's what you need, it's what you want to get, how long should you sit on a price? And do sometimes realtors get a little anxious to sell and move it? Let's talk about that for just a second. That's a real problem.
It's a great question. I think if you are dealing with an agent who is, focused on the end goal, right, which is the closing and the commission, that can create that conversation too early. As agents, we have a fiduciary duty to put our client first at all times, and that means that their interest comes before yours. And if you're working with a good and intelligent agent, that agent needs to recognize when a price reduction is appropriate versus when it's too early and there's other things that we can try. For myself personally, if I know that I have run the comps, if I know that I have a very good heartbeat on that market, if I know that that property is priced fairly and there's nothing else my seller can do, right? Maybe, if it was a situation with a paint color that was too distracting or some landscaping that needed work, if I know my seller's taking care of all of those things and we've come to market correctly, my price reduction conversation is going to come long after I have done everything else I can to market and promote that property effectively, my network of contacts with buyers and buyer's agents, and I think 10 days is way too early for a price reduction. And that's in my professional opinion. But again, we are at the mercy of our seller. So if I have a seller who tells me, no, 10 days on the market, if I don't get this price, we're lowering it, then I, of course, will move forward with them. I might give my advice and my opinion and my counsel, but at the end of the day, I am directed by my client.
Okay, let's jump over to marketing then, since we're kind of on that road here. And I do believe that marketing matters. And sometimes I have had my own personal experiences of selling my own home where, it was just the luck of the draw that I got an offer as soon as I did. And then I've had times where I've sold a home and I'm wondering why the agent isn't doing enough. They seem to sell and then sign in my listing and then disappear, and I don't hear from them again. So I think marketing matters hugely in this market as to getting your listing in front of more people. So talk to me about how you're approaching that with your houses.
Sure.
I loved what you said about the power of potent and viral marketing. I love that.
Yes. So you're 100% right. We live in a complete instant gratification society.
Totally.
We have been programmed that at any time of day or night, any average person can pick up their phone and research and see anything they want to see at all times. So when we are marketing properties, especially in my sector, which is going to be farm and ranch, which is typically a very specific buyer, it's so important that what I am creating has a mass exposure to as many possible clients as possible. So when I look at marketing a property, whether it is a smaller residential or it is a large farm and ranch, I have similar formulas for how I sell. And of course, a piece of that is great photos. And if you're an agent who's not doing great photos, please,
shame on you.
Yes, and I see it all the time. The MLS photo with the guy who's got his iPhone. I'm like, no. So that's a big piece of it is presenting yourself and your brand in a professional way and showcasing that house through photos, through video, etc. But something that I do that's really unique, and it works obviously on my large farm and ranch scale properties, is I market through video because we connect so highly on a video level. But I do not do it the way an average agent does it or a typical agent does it. And we've all seen those, right? You get the voice on there that's like, this 3-bed, 2-bathroom ranch house. And it's like over your head immediately. I create storylines.
Okay.
I create a story. So when you see my video, if you're a buyer or not, you're going to watch it and you're going to share it because it hits something in you. And horses are really magic for that. I have a great example. I had a property up in Whitesboro. Beautiful custom home, beautiful barn, incredible properties, about 40 acres, stunning lake and everything. I have a few friends of mine who they're big in the Arabian horses, and she has beautiful Friesians. And I called her up. I said, "You want to be a model for me? I need a video model to create the storyline." And we created this story, and it was a day in her life, essentially, right? So this video went through the home, went into the barn, showcased the property beautifully, created a story that emotionally connected a buyer. I had almost 100,000 views within 3 days.
I saw it. It's stunning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I sold the property.
And the girl was beautiful too.
Oh, Morgan's gorgeous. Yes. I sold the property within 10, all cash, full price. And those buyers, they connected with the property. And so when it comes to marketing, no matter if you are doing a small residential home or you're scaling all the way up into something specific, you have to be willing to go that extra mile to showcase why this property is special.
So you put the idea for the storyboard together with your model, and then did you hire a videographer?
Yes.
To come in professionally shoot it, because it looks like it was done very
And then
professionally.
do you loop a little music in as well?
Yes, so
it's really beautifully done. It's very professional.
Thank
and I can't think that would cost that much money. And of course, I realize that agents have to do according to what their marketing budget is for a home, for a listing. And if you're selling a luxury property, then you should definitely have a little bit more beautiful marketing pieces and videos that you're investing in. I mean, I think it should be a must, but you just don't see that so much of the time.
You're right, you don't. And the thing is it isn't that expensive, right? If you're
Not these days.
no, because everything has gone to video, everything has gone to phones, and even if you can't afford to hire a large videography team as an agent, you have a phone. You have the power of video. So you have to learn how to use that to reach out to any potential buyer. And it's so much bigger than the state of Texas. If all you're doing is posting it on the MLS and hoping that a buyer or an agent sees it, you're not doing enough.
Or posting it on your Facebook page and your Instagram page. So how are you marketing that video?
Sure. So I do a lot of different things. I'm partnered with Farm and Ranch Publications. So they have an Instagram and Facebook, and they will feature my videos when I have listings. Horseproperty.net is another one. My own social media, whether that's Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. And I also use ad dollars as well. So I have an ad spend that I set for each listing.
Very important.
Yes, this is how much I'm willing to spend monthly on each of these properties. And again, it's indicative of what type of listing I have.
And it's part of your marketing budget.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think you have to have that conversation.
Yes.
When you're selling your home, when you're listing your home with the agent to say, what is the budget going to be? I think you have to ask bluntly those questions to your agent. And a lot of sellers do not know to do that.
Right.
They don't understand the whole marketing process. So I think for an agent to be able to disclose, here is my marketing plan, but also to say, this is my marketing budget.
Yes.
I plan to spend this money on ad revenue on YouTube, and I'm going to be running Facebook and Instagram ads, or I'm going to be using this magazine or that magazine.
Yes.
I think that, and Marc is always preaching this, to inform.
Yes.
I think that sometimes sellers get caught like a deer in the headlights, where their house is for sale, they come home after it's been staged, and they're in shock of what's happening to their life. That my house doesn't look the same, it doesn't feel the same. I don't know what's going to happen. Are we asking the right price? And this is where the realtor comes in. I think it is so important to communicate and have that relationship with the person who's helping you sell your home.
I completely agree, and that is a conversation that sellers need to not be afraid to have. Picking a right agent, whether you're a buyer or a seller, is huge.
Totally.
Especially in this market. If you in every industry, and I say this because it's true, we have stereotypes in real estate, and they exist for a reason. There are great agents who are educated, who are dedicated, who are top producers, who know this market, and who are guides, and who can help you, and who are going to be there for you throughout the process. Just as there are agents who are not. Just as there are agents who maybe do this part-time, just as there are agents who can't help you or can't counsel you. So asking questions, whether you're a seller or a buyer, is so important in this market especially.
I think so too. I mean, I think that the process of finding that person that has the chemistry is sometimes can be kind of like finding a needle in a haystack, though, because salespeople can have a chemistry, right? They can come across and they can have a charisma, but then they get back after they've signed the dotted line and they are worthless. I mean, I've experienced that, and I hate to say that, but and it's not just realtors. It's anyone that's in a sales function, because that is the stereotype. That is the nature of the beast sometimes.
Right.
So, Marc, how do you find the right agent? I mean, that's a really good question.
Well,
How do you find the right agent?
I'm going to look for proven producers. So that's
There
just
you
pretty
go.
simple. It was interesting, just as simple as what we were having a conversation about my AC side. So I'm talking to the guy on the front porch. He's saying, I've been thinking about selling my house. I said, okay, well, what are your considerations? We talked for a few minutes. I said, do you have an agent that you know? Classic. Well, my wife's friend.
Right.
I looked at him,
no.
I said, dude, that just cost you about 50 grand off the sale of your home.
Yeah.
Because I said, what do you know about her production-wise? I don't know anything. How many houses does she sell a year? I don't know. What brand is she with? I'm not sure.
Right.
It's like, you got to pick people that, as you pointed out in some of the notes that we took together, that are doing this as a career.
Yes.
They didn't just get in the last 24 months. I didn't even say it's last 36 months. You got to know what you're doing in this space. You got to know how to put a plan together like you do in marketing, et cetera. So, I mean, I'm going to ask more forensic than what the normal consumer is going to think to ask. They just, you sell real estate? Well, you must sell real estate.
Well, we're always saying that knowledge is power to the agent, to the closer, to everyone in a transaction, but really knowledge is power to the person who's selling and the person who's buying, to the consumer, to the girl like me.
Right.
Knowledge is my power. And
Right.
that's a great point, to be forensic about who you're choosing as a realtor. Investigate them. Check out their Facebook pages, their Instagram pages. I think that's really important to.
Well, the other side
know.
is they always to gravitate toward how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
It's not about how it's going to cost you. It's about how much value you're going to get for your home.
Right.
That's to me, that's insignificant to that side. So if you want to go to limited services, that's exactly what you're going to get. Good luck on negotiating the contract.
Right.
Understanding what the values are, come back on an addendum after inspections. I mean, go down the list. They have no
Totally.
clue. You're going to get smoked.
Yep.
And you may find yourself bound in the contract
Where you can't get out.
where you can't get out, and
Yeah.
now you didn't realize the full value and wish you had paid
Yeah.
the commission to start with, because that's how you earn your living.
Yeah.
I mean, and you do it well. So anyhow,
Well, some great information. I appreciate you coming on the show.
it goes by like that.
I know
So-
we're already out
Wait
of
a minute.
time,
Yeah.
so I just want to say this, that if you need a farm and ranch expert, this is the gal, and we'll have her contact information on the website there so that you can contact her if you have any questions. But we always do a 3 takeaways at the end of the show.
Sure.
Things that you want to just leave with the audience after we've talked around all these things. I'm going to let Marc go first so that you've got time to think about it.
Thank you.
Well, the first one is kind of, I just, when I was listening to Ayla talk about her marketing strategies, just like think outside the box.
Yeah.
Because,
I loved the video. God,
yeah.
I loved that. It was so perfect. It was so great for that property.
In concept, all you got to do is go look at Facebook page.
Yeah.
And watch, how many people post the same thing on where to go this weekend to the lake or whatever it may be. It's so mundane. It's so uninviting, and it has no impact to your marketing strategy. So get outside the box, step back, look at, see what everyone else is doing. Mike Brody used to use a term called marketing the difference.
Love
like that.
And so you step back, look, and say, what's everyone else doing, and what can I do that's more unique to that? And you found that in your storytelling
Thank you.
to that side. So I applaud that. Work with people that are specialists.
Yes.
And Ayla specializes. She can sell you a house. I'm sure she can do it effectively. But if you want to get into, if you're in that space, a farm and ranch, then she's your girl, because she understands that space all the way through, I'm sure, from not only just the property itself, but if somebody's moving in from out of state and buying that property, do they have a relationship with the vet? Do they have people that can work the property for them, et cetera, et cetera? It's a full kind of a concierge of things that you can help them when they buy that property. And then find people that are making this their career and have tenure and have production, and drill into those things, because those are the people that know how to get deals done. A, and B, most likely, those are the same people that are going to have relationships in the marketplace. Whether it's your listing and a buyer who knows you is bringing it because it's saying, hey, I like working with her, or whether it's the other side and you got a buyer and you see a listing and you say, I know I can work with those people. Because at the end, the two parties have to be able to negotiate. And I think that having that experience really makes a difference, and reputation, which I think Ayla does, out there in the marketplace, that people are going to be receptive to your offer perhaps versus someone else who they don't know. So those are three of my thoughts.
That's good. That's rich.
Yeah, great takeaways. I think for me, when it comes to clientele, so when it comes to buyers and sellers, my biggest takeaway is do your research as a seller or a buyer, and not only in the market, right, but do your research into an agent in your area. You want to see that specialist, as Marc said. You want to ask the questions that maybe you're afraid to ask or don't even know to ask. Don't be afraid to be the person who's looking and searching for information. So for buyers and sellers, do your homework and hire someone who you gel with from a personal perspective, but also is a top producer. And those are a little more difficult to find, but it's going to be so worth it in the end. My second takeaway is to agents, which is do the very best work that you can, day in and day out.
Absolutely.
Because if you are making this a career, whether you've been in it for 6 months or 60 years, right? This, at the end of the day, is a representation of you. You're an extension of your own brand. So if you're an agent who is not doing every single thing every single day to show up as the highest version of your professional self, not only for your own brand, but what you put out into the marketplace, then you need to do better. That's my second takeaway for sure. And we see it every day when we're dealing with agents on the other side of a transaction who maybe don't present themselves that way. So that would be my challenge, right? Do better, do your very best. And then the third thing that I would say is, for either an agent or a consumer, you have to understand that real estate is cyclical. We have changes that come around all the time. We see the pendulum swing from one side to the other. And if you're a consumer, education over panic all the time, because you don't want to see that splashy headline about interest rates and that be the end of the world, right? Same with agents. Learn how to properly and effectively counsel your clients through changes. That's a huge piece of this game that is not going to be taught to you when you're getting your real estate license, and it's not going to be taught to you if you're sitting on the sideline. So take it by the horns, make sure you're educating your clients, and help them through a change and a transition.
That's what I've always said, be a real estate consultant.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
that's what people will embrace.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to say ditto to what you were speaking to the agents. I think that agents need to be on their game
Yes.
for every listing. And you need to represent yourself properly on every channel that you can be found on. So if I'm going to go do a search on you on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, on your website, on YouTube, if you're in this business, I'm sorry, you have to be represented properly on those channels, because that is what people are looking at. That's what they're looking for and how they're investigating you. That's what they're going to make a decision based on, in addition to, like what Ayla said, the chemistry that they might feel with you. But also they're going to look at what you're doing and how you're representing yourself. So I think that's really, really important. And then secondly, to the marketing, I think it's so important to have that marketing plan. I cannot tell you, as a marketing agency, that most of my career, the bulk of my clients have been realtors. And I cannot tell you how many of them don't have a clue as to how or what they're going to do to market a property. Oh, we're going to put it in MLS. We're going to go tell them about it at our MLS BS breakfast that we're going to do. Nobody's going to go over to the house and look at it, but and you're going to depend on your sphere to sell that house. But that doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Your sphere ain't enough. So you've got to put ad dollars on Facebook. You've got to put ad dollars on YouTube videos. You've got to put ad dollars on Instagram. And don't freak out. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to spend all your commissions, but be smart about how you're planning your marketing budget and allocate those dollars. Be a good business person and allocate those dollars. And then thirdly, for everybody, communicate. Talk to each other. Make sure that you are asking the realtor the right questions. Make sure the realtor is giving the right information and giving providing an atmosphere of settledness to their seller, to their buyer. Be out there. Don't only just disclose, but disclose thoroughly with what you're doing with your clients. So it's all good and it's all wonderful, but there's so much today. Yes. And I think this is the overwhelming thing that we all feel. There is so much. I can't just log into my Facebook anymore. I have to log in with two-step authentication. And I've got to remember what that is. And I've got to have my device handy in order to do that. It's crazy, okay? But if you get your tools in line and you get used to using them and you have strategies set up and your tools set up with them, it all becomes easier and it becomes doable. So.
And you know your plan.
And you know your plan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Power
Thank you,
is in
guys.
planning. Yes, thank you.
Thank
Ayla,
you
thank
for
you so
having
much.
me.
Yeah,
Yes,
you were awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
guys. We will see you for episode 41 in the month of June.
Ciao.
Have a happy summer. Bye. Ciao.